Good morning. Today I want to talk to you about some things that we as administration feel are very important, and that is the parent and teacher relationship. We are here to serve our students, but the most effective way that we can do that is making sure we have a great relationship with our parents and our students. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Thompson. And so today, I am just going to talk to you about some behavior resources for both parents and teachers that they can use to effectively manage challenging behaviors. What is behavior? How is it defined? From our resources that we have, behavior refers to what individuals do, what behaviors are observed, and what actions are observed. Those behaviors can be verbal or nonverbal. Many of us who may have OCS students or students with disabilities may deal with students who may not be able to communicate what they're feeling, what they're upset about. And so these behaviors sometimes can come in a very nonverbal way. So, what do behaviors look like in school versus at home? Okay, and again, I realize some of you may work with OCS students or students with disabilities, and some of you may work with typical students who are what we would call normal on the developmental scale. Okay, so what do some of these behaviors look like for a typical student? They may be talking excessively, leaving their assigned seat, not paying attention. For those of you who deal with high school students, they may use their cell phones. In some cases, some students may backtalk, all right? Others may just not listen to the directions or prompts that are being given, okay? Now, for an atypical student, or an OCS student or a student with a disability, a lot of these students are not verbal, okay? So a lot of their behaviors may be nonverbal actions, okay? They may display hitting, and that could be another student, a teacher, an administrator. They may moan, they may yell, they may grab in some cases. They may not follow directions or prompts when given to change their behavior, or they might even go so far as to self-abuse themselves, all right? And these are just some of the behaviors that you may see being displayed both in school and at home. What are some causes of behaviors in school and at home? All right. At school, it may be other peers, okay? Bullying is a big thing we're starting to see in classrooms and in the hallways these days, all right? Lack of ability or understanding to complete the work, all right? A lot of students, whenever they cannot complete the work, the frustration of not being able to complete the work causes them to act out, and it becomes very frustrating for them. Issues at home, okay? Are these students witnessing their parents going through a divorce? Many times when parents go through divorces, children feel that it's their fault that the parents are getting a divorce. This may lead to challenging behaviors in classrooms. Are they being abused at home? Okay. In some cases, you will be able to see the signs of physical abuse taking place, but oftentimes you may not. If it's a situation where there's a lot of mental abuse and no physical abuse, these can lead to challenging behaviors that will be harder to identify. Fear of failing or being successful. Many students, if they feel that they will be ridiculed or ostracized for being successful, they will act out. Conversely, some of these students may feel like if they give their all, they will still fail. And this too will become a sense of frustration and cause these students to act out. One that as teachers do not like to hear is that a lot of times, in some cases, teachers are the cause of the behavior. Now, you don't see it often, but there are some cases where teachers and students just aren't a good fit, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. But as an administrator and a facilitator, we need to be able to identify that if we are the cause for the student, if there's just not a good fit, we need to be willing to admit to this and accept it. For you parents, at home, peers again could also be a reason for the child to come home and have behaviors at home. How's your relationship with the child? Okay, do you have a good relationship with your child? Do you have an open line of communication? Is it working? Okay, is the relationship working? And if not, that's fine. Look to get help. That's what we as teachers are here for. That's what we have counselors for. All right. Is there abuse going on in the home that you may not be aware of? Okay. A lot of times, children who are being abused will not talk about it. They will show signs of behaviors. They will do things. There will be signs, but they will be very hard to see. Maturity. Depending on the age of your child or the age of your student, children, when they start hitting their adolescent, preteen years, their bodies begin to change. And then these changes, they may not quite understand how to communicate or how to verbalize what they're feeling or what they're going through, okay? So this maturity phase in their life could also lead to very challenging behaviors. And last one, police perception. Depending on the demographic of student that you have or where you live as a family or a parent, the perception of police may be something that is very frustrating for your child or your student to understand. With all that's going on in today's world, there is a negative perception of policing minorities. So if your student is a minority and they begin to display challenging behaviors, find out what's going on in the neighborhood. Because it may be they just saw somebody get into a situation with a cop and they don't really understand what they saw. So again, just some causes of behaviors that you may see in school versus at home. Actions that help to reduce behaviors at school versus at home. We'll start on this side. First and foremost, ask questions, okay? But in doing so, if you're gonna ask a question, be willing to listen, all right? So many students often feel that they can't talk to anyone because if they start talking, people will hear them, but they will not listen, okay? So if you begin to ask questions, at least be willing to listen. Don't get too emotional, all right? When you start trying to engage these students and starting to reduce these behaviors, don't get too emotional, all right? But show empathy. If you as a teacher begin to get too emotional, what happens is you start to feed off the student starts to feed off you, and you both begin to butt heads, all right? And the behavior is not going to reduce, it's just going to escalate, okay? But in doing so, have empathy. You don't know what the child is dealing with. The child doesn't know what you're going through, all right? But when you begin to reduce these behaviors, be direct. Avoid any gray areas. You know, provide the child with things that they can actually do and complete. Okay, don't give them anything that they may come back and say, well, that didn't work for me. So try to avoid gray areas, but be direct when addressing the behavior. Sometimes it's okay to give choices. If this or this, that is fine. If you want to do this, then you have to do this. Okay. If you don't do this, then this is going to happen. Kind of a cause and effect, and that's okay. If that works for that child to reduce that child's behavior. Be open-minded. Again, you don't know what the child may be dealing with. You don't know the cause or the root of the problem that's causing the behavior, but be willing to be open-minded when the child begins to vent to you about what's going on. For parents, again, at home, and this is really hard as parents because many times parents feel like I'm the parent, you're gonna do as I say. But ask questions. But again, same with the teachers, when you begin to ask questions, be willing to listen, okay? Also, like the teachers, this is very difficult for parents because it's tough for a parent to be open and minded about their child and what their child is going through. But you must do it. If you want to reduce the behavior, if you want to help your child get through whatever emotional challenges they may be facing, you have to be open-minded, okay? But next, you also have to model the appropriate behavior, okay? Many times, children will respond to things and respond to challenges based off of how they've seen their parents respond, all right? But with that, present consequences for behavior, okay? They need to know as a parent that everything has a cause and effect, all right? And you're the first teacher of that, and showing them that if you do this, this is what's gonna happen. But also as a parent, you have to address all behaviors immediately, okay? Because if you do not, the children will say, well, mom and dad, they let me slide with it this time, so I can probably do it again, all right? And just like with the teachers, it's okay to give choices, all right? When you're trying to reduce a behavior, or you're trying to find out, you know, how something is bothering a child or why a child is doing something. And, all right, while we're all here today, okay, parents and teachers come together. Like I said at the beginning, we are all here for our students. But in order to serve our students to the best of our abilities, we have to do this. Parents and teachers coming together. And I just put this little bullet point that says, in order to respond effectively to a student's behavior, the teacher and the parent have to be on the same page, okay? That is imperative, that both the teacher and the student, or the teacher and the parent, excuse me, are both know what's going on with the student. The parent at school and the teacher at home. What behaviors are they seeing when the student is not with them? They have to be open about the past history that makes behaviors more or less likely to occur, okay? So if if a parent is dealing with a behavior at home and, you know, it's something that could help deter the child from presenting the behavior in school, that's something that the parent, you know, you want to get on the phone or send an email and say, hey, little Johnny's having this issue at home, don't know if you've seen it in school, but just wanted to make you aware of it, so we can work together to try to nip it in the bud. The next bullet point, it is important for both parents to uphold the same expectations for their child behavior so that it allows for a continuum between school and home. All right? Both parents and teachers should have the same expectation for a child. Okay? Many times what we have all seen is that a teacher's expectation is different for the child than the child's parent, okay? Or the child's parent expectation is different than that of the teacher, okay? We both have to be on the same page, all right? That's the only way that the child's behavior will not only decrease, but effectively, ultimately, be eliminated. Things teachers need parents to know. Many times, both parents and teachers have preconceived notions about each other. So what I did here was I just took a couple of bullet points to point out some things that before you guys go and judge what a teacher may be thinking, here are some things that teachers would like for parents to know. The first one, parents are a child's first teacher. The behavior that they typically have, they may have seen you have the same behavior. So they feel that that is the appropriate way to act or the behavior to display whenever they're feeling a certain way. Teachers cannot control the child's behavior. Although in many cases we probably would like to, we don't have that power. We can help reduce it, we can help deter it, but we cannot control it. Teachers, they want to be a source of support for parents, okay? They're not just there to teach your child, they're there to teach your child, but also be a source of support for you as well. Teachers care about your child. Regardless of the behaviors that your child displays, teachers genuinely care how your child is doing. Teachers are not the enemy though, okay? And I know in some situations it feels like the teacher is the enemy and the teacher is against your child, but ultimately the teacher is not your enemy nor the child's enemy. And like I said earlier, teachers do not have a preconceived belief that a child is bad. You know, regardless of what one teacher may tell a teacher, generally all teachers will give a child a chance and try to help deter that child's behavior. Parents need teachers to know, okay? For the most part, parents want their child to be successful. But as teachers, we often feel like because parents don't show up, because they don't call, because they may not email, that they may not care about the success of their child. But we as teachers have to remember, we don't know what the situation at home is like. We don't know how many jobs need to be worked in order to provide for this child. But parents want us to know that they do want their child to be successful. Sometimes parents need help, guys, okay? And that's okay. That's what we're here for. We're here to be a source of support for them. So if they need help in making sure their child gets all the necessary tools to be successful, they have them to their discretion. Parents want to be asked whether help is needed. You know, many times we as teachers, we like to assume things rather than saying, hey, can I help you with this or can I help you with that? And that creates that creates a little tension between both the parents and the teachers when the teachers begin to assume that the parent needs or doesn't need something, okay? But the parents feel better when you ask them if they could use some assistance rather than just assume, okay? But don't assume the parents don't care, okay? And again, we as teachers, we do this sometimes because parents, they're not involved in PTA. They don't come to parent conference meetings. It takes them a couple days to email back when emailed or call, all right? Parents typically care, okay? So we as teachers, when we're dealing with the student, when we're dealing with the parent, let's not assume that the parent doesn't care. But we also have to remember, with the same token, sometimes life does get overwhelming for parents. Most of us in here are parents, so we can definitely relate to this. Resources for parents and teachers, okay? These next couple of slides that all of you guys will get as you leave today are just a couple of websites that I found some information on that I thought was very helpful, as well as a couple of different articles that I found to be a great tool to use for both parents and teachers when dealing with challenging behaviors. But I know I've held you guys long enough. I know you're ready to get out of here. But last but not least, just remember, whenever you're dealing with a child and a child's challenging behavior, your best support system are each other, the parent and the teacher. If you guys can find a way to collectively work together, in the end, the child is going to be successful. Thank you for your time. See you guys next time. Thank you.